Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome in. This is the Overtime Drive. It is Monday, January the 12th. Another Monday is officially upon us. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cold Bear Thompson. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. A lot of things been happening over this weekend. Yes, the SEC football season for 2025 is officially. It never stops, as you all know. It's 24/7, 365. We got portal news to get into. We're going to put a pin on the season that was 2025, just kind of let the dust settle, officially close the book, right? We all need closure after the SEC failed to make the national championship.
Again.
We'll do that. We'll get a little bit of closure here on a Monday, talk about the season that was, also give a State of the Union when it comes to the SEC, which I think is really important to do right now after missing that third straight national title. We've got college football playoff expansion talk. Again, we've got portal talk, and we're taking your questions, your comments, and everything in between here on a really exciting Monday. Guys, again, he's Cole Thompson. I'm Chris Phillips. Before we get going, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, all across your favorite social media platforms, our website, SECunfiltered.com. Follow him at Mr. Cole Thompson. Follow me at CPhilly19. And make sure you check out our friends over at Underdog as well, because as always, we are brought to you by our friends at Underdog. Download the Underdog app today. Use promo code SECU to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Once again, that is the Underdog app. Get to winning today over at Underdog. Promo code SECU, $75 in bonus entries. Once again, I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cole the Bear Thompson. This is the Overtime Drive. And for now, this is SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly SEC football show. More on that in just a moment. A really exciting week here at SEC Unfiltered and a really exciting show on deck. We got tons to get into. Cole, appreciate you taking the time, man. How was the weekend? And you got a big Monday, by the way, because the Houston Texans are in the playoffs.
Yeah. I have all the time in the world to, talk everything else about the world of college football, because if God forbid that the Texans don't end up winning this game, I am going to be out of my mind. Good weekend overall, kind of boring. You know what I appreciate? I appreciate the fact it was boring because I knew that this week was going to take the entire livelihood out of me. So, just get through another Monday and then hopefully we'll be able to survive the rest of the time.
Yeah, Cole, we got some housekeeping items I want to get into, some really exciting things. It was a great weekend for yours truly as well. It leads into what's going to be a phenomenal week for us. First things first, by the way, Cole. I knew this already going into this Monday. I'm sure there's many of you tuned in. And by the way, I want to get to you all. So many of our loyal listeners hanging out. Our guy Sam Man, of course, he's in here giving the Aggies hell, which that's nothing new. Obviously, Rich Harvey's in here as well. DWBTTS, big weekend for the Horns. They're all excited. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. But I learned today, and I knew this coming into this Monday, but you got to be really careful on social media because there's a lot of people that lack reading comprehension and lack critical thinking skills. So just make sure, Cole, whenever you drop a graphic or you drop any content, make sure you clearly, concisely explain what it's about because, man, I've been dropping postseason report cards for the season that was since I started making content. I've been in this game quite a while. Man, I felt the wrath today because people don't know the difference. I feel like my brain is broken. I'm like, why would I grade the transfer portal or the offseason when we're not even remotely close to done with the offseason? I don't get it. I don't.
We just started the offseason.
The portal's not even closed yet. So
we still have multiple moves that are being made right now.
Yeah. If you don't know, this morning on this Monday, I dropped our postseason report card, which I'll dive more into that in detail at a different time. But a lot of people didn't understand. I guess there's so many SEC fan bases that have just blocked out the 2025 season.
Sure.
So we'll discuss more in a second, obviously. Again, housekeeping items, Cole, really quickly. Guys, in case you've missed it, in case you've been living under a rock, I would call this, and I don't think it's an overstatement. I try to avoid those. This is one of, if not the most high-impact weeks in the history of SEC Unfiltered. For what will be taking place this week behind the scenes, I myself working very, very diligently. A lot of infrastructure stuff, a lot of just like business development or however you want to phrase it. But a lot of business stuff is happening behind the scenes from an organization perspective, from a creation perspective, you're probably going to see me tease a lot of stuff this week. You saw me tease over the weekend. And I've already told you guys, obviously, the SEC Unfiltered Network, that will be launching next Tuesday, along with some other stuff as well. So I just want to say thank you to you guys for your support to this point, but this is a really exciting week. I'm as fired up as I've been in quite a while. With change comes opportunity, and I'm somebody that I love change because of that. So some tweaks, some adjustments, if you will. We've talked about this in great detail before, but this is the last week this show will be known as the Overtime Drive. I can tell you that much. And again, Cole and I are both really excited about it. Probably on Wednesday, we'll tease what the new graphic will be. Maybe Monday, because we will have one more show actually next week, the day of the national title. But Cole has seen it. He's fired up. He's excited. The facelift, the rebrand, I think is going to be a great, great thing for this show, for all the shows that'll be on the SEC Unfiltered Network. So again, you can trust and be rest assured there is a lot of hard work behind the scenes happening this week specifically that I'm really, really pumped to share with you all. So it is a great week. It's a great day. I'm repping the brand top to bottom. It's a great day to rep the brand. It's an exciting time for the brand and a massive week for SEC Unfiltered. So again, set your calendars January 20th, and you're going to see me, like I said, teasing stuff all throughout the week. And I'm going to shout him out when we're done. But our guy cooking up these logos, legend. He's an absolute legend, doing an incredible job. Guy that I met here in Nashville. So really, really appreciate him. So, Cole, with that being said, let's dive into the show. Again, we got a lot to get into, a lot of stuff to discuss. And I thought it was important we do this, Cole. And these first two topics will kind of bleed into each other because they kind of go hand in hand. But I thought it was important. You know, you and I, obviously, Ole Miss game happens on Thursday. We go live after the game. But, you know, a couple days after, I wanted to take a moment. Let's put a pin in what was the 2025 SEC football season, because I think it's important to look back, to reflect, especially now that we've had a couple days to kind of digest, to process what happened. You know, it's interesting, Cole, the 2025 season, I thought we were on deck for maybe the best season in the history of the SEC. It was a good season. I don't think it was as dramatic as 2024, if I'm being totally honest, where we had Vandy beating Alabama coming out of nowhere. We had the Arkansas over Tennessee game. Just think about the tour. We rushed the field 4 times at different stops. There were big moments this year. There were some upsets. But it felt like, to me, there was a very clear separation between the top of the league, the middle of the league, and the bottom of the league. Like we didn't have that craziness, that chaos. You know, we had strength at the top, but I don't know. You talk to me on this. I don't feel like it wasn't as crazy as I think I thought it was going to be honest with you.
There was a clear separation, in my opinion, between top-tier teams, middle-level teams, and bottom-tier teams. And the difference was this year, you didn't see any of the upsets happen. Like, we saw close games, we saw close calls, but South Carolina didn't find a way to beat Alabama. Mississippi State didn't find a way to beat Tennessee. LSU found a way to lose to a Vanderbilt team, but at the end of the day, Vanderbilt actually ended up being pretty freaking good, and they've got to a 10-win season. So, you know, there was a clear distinction that this season, more separation, more understanding that there were more tiers. And I feel like that when you break it all down, the thing that we've been able to talk a lot about is the fact that in the SEC, there always feels like there's a middle packet of where this is what overshadows the Big Ten. This is what overshadows the Big 12. This is what overshadows the ACC. The middle of the SEC is so daunting that you can go toe-to-toe with anybody at the top and at least make it a game. And now it feels like, no, that's not the case. Now it's more so you're a 7-5 team that can lose to a 7-5 team from the Big Ten. You're a 6-6 team that is barely getting into that get into a bowl game because of you just did enough. There are some bottom-dwelling teams that did not have a good season. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad year. Doesn't mean that there aren't great teams. But outside of maybe Texas that, you know, given the bad loss to Florida, and then they don't schedule a game against Ohio State, or they find a way to get the right system in order against Georgia, there really was a clear distinction of these are the 4 or 5 best teams in the SEC. Then you have a team that's sitting at 9-3, but really could be 10-2. They can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And then you got a bunch of middling teams, and then you have a bunch of bottom dwellers. And that's just kind of the case. And that might be the case moving forward with the 9-game conference schedule, with the expanded college football playoff, with more games that are going to be against Power 4 opponents, you lose a matchup to a team that you thought that you were supposed to beat. And ultimately, that kind of tells you where you are. Because the thing that we noticed last season is, well, Alabama, they lose to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt goes 6-6. It's a good season in Vanderbilt standards, but you still go 9-3. Now I feel like that moving forward, you lose to a team that ends up going 6-6, you're closer to a 7-5 roster than you are a 10-2. That's more so your pecking order at this point.
I think the thing too, Cole, it happened obviously within the realm of the 2025 season, but the impact this season had on the future of the league, I don't think can be overstated, because we had 6 coaching changes. You include obviously the LSU Ole Miss deal there, Pete Golding taking over. There were 6 changes as a whole: Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, LSU, and of course Ole Miss, all with new coaches going into 2026 and beyond. I mean, I think that was when you're talking about what was the biggest storyline of the 2025 SEC football season, that has to be it. I mean, because we came out of 2024, nobody got fired. That was the big talking point at an SEC media days and all throughout the preseason. I mean, I remember asking you on multiple occasions, asking our audience, asking you guys on multiple occasions. I think I set the over-under at 2.5, maybe 3.
Yeah,
and
I think we said 3 going into the year.
Yeah, we said, I think we said over 2.5, the number would probably be 3. 3 coaches would get fired, or we'd have 3 changes.
Yeah.
We saw a massive overhaul. And I think obviously a big part of that, number one, results weren't where they needed to be at certain places. Number two, I think now that schools have this rev share thing, it's not like a fresh new concept. They kind of have it figured out. Everybody's books a little more balanced. People understood, hey, this is what we can spend on the buyout. This is what we can't afford not to spend if we want our program to excel and have a chance to flourish in this league. I think that's definitely the big storyline of the 2025 season is just, and this is a year that, no, the SEC did not win the national championship. We'll get more on that in just a second. But this is a season that, Cole, I think it's safe to say will very well dictate over the next decade plus. How many natties does the SEC win? A lot of these hires need to work out for the SEC, obviously, to have the best opportunity. There's some, obviously, we have higher expectations of than others, but no doubt, Cole, it is a year that even though there wasn't a national title trophy hoisted, it's a season that undoubtedly is going to shape the future of the league in a massive way. You
also are going to have a lot of teams that could end up going from being very well known in the world of college football to bottom dwellers, or they could be
go both ways. Go both ways.
Teams that we thought, hey, they're supposed to be bottom dwellers. They kind of peaked their way on up. I mean, because we're not even talking about some of the outside noises. Like Will Stein going to Kentucky. It may on paper look like, okay, it's just a regular hire. Well, what if Will Stein is the reason why Kentucky football ends up getting to that next level that Mark Stoops never could get it to? Because of his offensive innovations and because of his ideologies and what he goes about in the transfer portal, and rev share ends up benefiting them. Or what if he ends up being such a disastrous hire that they end up going back to being in the level of Joker Phillips? John Summerall down in Gainesville. John Summerall made sure that he was not going to bring a G5 mentality over to a place like the Swamp. And he went out and he hired Buster Faulkner. And he went out and hired Brad White as his defense coordinator. And he's killed it in the portal so far. And he's done a really good job of retaining talent. And what if that's now the turning point of where, hey, Billy Napier and Will Muschamp and all these other guys that kind of came on through, it was cool. They had a couple of winning seasons, but this is where sustainability is. Auburn with Alex Golesh. It's now an up-tempo offense. What's that going to look like in the grand scheme with Alabama now struggling to be able to retain players in the portal? LSU landing Lane Kiffin. Is this a really good move or is this a bad move? What if the ideologies that were set in place in Oxford are now a winning formula for Pete Golding, killing it in the transfer portal and being able to develop talent? And it's not just a Lane Kiffin approach. So there's a lot of things that you look at that will reshape the future of the SEC to where, yeah, Georgia's going to be absolutely in the conversation. And I think Alabama's not going anywhere and Texas isn't going anywhere. And for the most part, I would say Texas A&M most seasons won't go anywhere. But you are going to have some teams that every once in a while will make that jump up. There could be some teams that we're talking about to the outside looking in, now moving closer towards you know what, we're actually supposed to go 9-3 every year. You know what, we're actually going to crash the college football playoff party. We may be in Indiana for 2 seasons, killing it, destroying and retaining all this talent, and we'll go 13-0, and we'll win the SEC, and we'll get the first round bye, and we'll win the national title. But then a year from now, we may have to hit reset, and we may rebuild. That's where we're looking at in the SEC. And I think that we're also looking at is a lot of teams that we're going to start going all in one season, because Texas is doing that right now. Like a team like the Longhorns, they go 9-3, they win their bowl game, they're excited about the future, but they're making it abundantly clear. 2026 is a year that we are putting everything at the forefront. And if we don't win, there's a lot of problems that we're going to have to solve behind closed doors. And that might mean a change in the helm.
Yeah, there were a few teams, obviously, Cole, that overachieved. I think there were a good bit that underachieved their preseason expectations. Cole, when you look back on the season, that you can on-field, off-field, our content, something else, best memories from the 2025 season.
Ooh.
If you miss this low-hanging fruit, I'm going to be upset with you.
I think it's Diego Pavia, actually. Just
Cole, it's you and I in Dallas.
Well, that was number one, but I didn't want to. I was getting to that. Just give it time.
Get to the low-hanging fruit, man.
And then you and I and Sandman in Dallas was absolutely number one. I mean, again, you got to actually witness
first Red River shootout. You'll never forget it.
And you got to witness why it was the greatest rivalry in college football. Again, I remember telling you for weeks that this is the game that you have to go to, and this is the game that you cannot afford to miss because it will fit in with the SEC. So that was automatically the number one, it was the number one trip. It was one of our best vlogs. It was one of our best overall content days. We had a lot of people reach out to us, like how much they enjoyed the show and all that. That was really great that you and I got to hang out with each other. It was fantastic for, I think, just an overall day of just enjoying what is purity of college football. But from a national perspective, I'll say that watching Diego Pavia and company actually live up to all the expectations that they set at the beginning of the year is pretty remarkable, because of, you got to remind yourself that there were so many people, including us, that said last season was awesome, but there still is a certain limitation that we're going to see. Like they'll be 7-5 and we'll call it a good win. They went 10-2. They dismantled LSU. They hung business over Missouri. They went into, and then they had a Heisman finalist that very well could have won the damn award if anybody else besides Fernando Mendoza was there. And they were able to come back in miraculous fashion to be able to find a way to guarantee that their season was not left in jeopardy. And in a year where we talk about what Alabama was supposed to be and what Texas was supposed to be and what A&M did and all these other things, to forget that Vanderbilt really did set the standard of what is the new expectations. That to me is exactly what I will always look at as the big storyline in 2025.
Definitely number one for me was you and I at the Red River Shootout. That game went from I had never attended to now I feel like I need to attend it every single year. My big takeaway from that weekend was, hey, I need to get in town sooner so we can do more of the fair. That is, and that will happen next year. I didn't get to ride anything. I'm like, I want to get back to the fair. Red River Shootout was incredible. Dude, I'll be honest with you. My trip to Norman was one of my favorite memories of the season. That was, I can't wait to get back to Norman. Norman was awesome. The Diego Pavia story obviously was incredible. I'll say the Lane Kiffin saga. We were drained by the end of it, but it was so entertaining for that 3 to 4 week stretch. That was incredible. That was peak. Like, women have Love Island and whatever other that's what we have. We have coaching search drama. That is our reality TV. We can't get enough of it. And when you have a villain or a character like a Lane Kiffin, I mean, it obviously only fuels into it. Other than that, man, all the shows with you, I would say. We had a lot of fun on Sundays. Those were obviously really, really fun. All the previews, the predictions. It was a great season. A lot of good memories. A lot of great stuff on the field. A lot of fun things that happened off the field. Taking the buzz bomb at Mizzou. That was probably one of my favorite memories for me personally. Have you ever had one of those?
Buzz bombs? Yes.
It like makes your mouth go numb or whatever. That's wild. It's a
horrible.
Wild experience.
It's just like ethanol, in my opinion. It sucks.
Yeah, it was a fascinating experience. I'll just put it that way. I don't even know how to
describe what you.
I'd like to do it again, honestly, because it's like, I don't know. I need to it's hard to even I don't know how to explain it to somebody really. That was fun. Yeah. I mean, dude, we had a ton of great memories for 2025. Ton of great memories. Hanging out with all you guys, obviously. Yeah. I mean, getting to obviously chat and conversate with some of you. Miss Terry's Bathwater is one that I'll just never forget that username for as long as I ever shall live. So a lot of good memories. Cole, as we put a pin in it again, putting the 2025 season to rest, if you had to describe the season in one word, what's the word you use?
Implosion. Just implosion. Because of no matter how you phrase it, everything capsized on itself in some capacity, whether that be the league itself knocking out each other in the playoff to now ruin your opportunities to have more teams play in the next round because Alabama knocked out Oklahoma and then Ole Miss knocked out Georgia. So that hurt your chances. Or thinking that Ole Miss was going to be a team that Lane Kiffin was going to choose. No. I'm going to go to LSU instead. So now I'm going to try to capsize your roster in the process of it. Or Texas fans losing their mind in week 1 on Arch Manning, only to have to go back and delete a bunch of tweets later on. Or Texas A&M fans saying that, we're at 11, we're 11-0. This is going to be the best season possible. And then us jinxing them apparently because they lose to Texas in the backyard. Like that becoming a big time storyline. Just implosion in general because of this conference had an opportunity to really kind of go back to the level of domination and success. And ultimately, every way that you turned on it, it just found a way to capsize in some capacity on each other.
Cole, I'd just go disappointing. I think it was a disappointing year because the league failed to win the national championship for the third straight season. I mean, I think that's the big takeaway. Like if the SEC found a way to win it all, like if Ole Miss would have made a run, Bama, whoever, Georgia, obviously, then a lot of those other storylines would be kind of moot points. But because you don't find a way to win the national championship, it was disappointing. And I'll even add another word. I'll go disheartening. It was a little disheartening. It was disheartening to see the league fall short yet again when it felt like when we came into the playoff field, you got 5 teams in. I know obviously 2 of them had to play each other, but it felt like the path was there. It was very well set up for you, and you were unable to finish the job. So, yeah. I mean, that leads us, Cole, into this. I think this is an important conversation to have, sort of a State of the Union address for the SEC. Because, again, we've still got one more game, the national title. College football sickos like us, we're all here. We're all excited to watch the game, Indiana, Miami, see how it plays out. But the SEC football season is over. Cole, we can get as in-depth with this as we want, as high level as we want. Maybe this is a conversation that need not be that long. But let's have an honest convo about the state of the SEC right now. Because, again, we're SEC Unfiltered. We're an SEC show, but we're going to call it as we see it. We're going to be very honest about the state of the league. I'll let you start, Cole, your honest assessment of SEC football, the conference as a whole, because we love to have these conference debates, right? And the SEC for almost 2 decades has touted, we're the best, top to bottom. We have the best teams. For the longest, the SEC, it seemed like, was winning every single national title. This is 3 years in a row, and there will be a lot of crazy takes out there about the conference. Your thoughts, honestly, the state of the league as we head into the offseason and countdown to the 2026 season.
The SEC is no longer the number 1 league in college football. That doesn't mean that it can't get back there. That doesn't mean that it can't compete. That doesn't mean that it can't still end up being able to win national championships. But for a guy like Greg Sankey to come out and say we deserve 7 spots in the college football playoff is an asinine take when you show up the way you did in the postseason. It is. The fact that you are no longer able to just guarantee that you will be able to hide players on your roster because of Georgia is a big brand and Alabama is a big brand, it's not going to end up being a good thing. You're going to end up losing players. As there's more revenue share in the world of the sport, teams like South Carolina, teams like Ole Miss, teams like Vanderbilt, but also teams like Purdue and teams like Northwestern and teams like NC State, it's all about who's going to the highest bidder. Do you have the revenue distribution to be able to afford the best talent? And every single year, you're going to see change. You think that you have a player that's locked up for the long term? No, he's not. A guy that you envisioned that was going to be a part of your culture and your identity for the next 5 to 10 years, 4 or 5 years, they're not going to be there anymore because every offseason they're going to have to re-up deals. The transfer portal rankings are almost as important, if not more important than your recruiting rankings. And your retaining of roster is a bigger deal than ever before because of names that you think that are going to end up being household figures for your roster may end up leaving in the offseason. That's just the bottom line. because of the new era of college football that we live in with the revenue distribution, there's going to be a more even keel playing field. Now, it may happen for the Big 12 and it may not happen for the ACC, but it will happen for the Big 10. You are going to start seeing teams as you move to a 9-conference game schedule be a little bit more even keel, where here's the Big 10, here's the SEC, and some years here will be the SEC and here will be the Big 10, and the other years they'll be switched. You're going to have more rosters that are more even level playing field in terms of the middle of the pack, to where an Illinois and an Iowa are no different than a Texas A&M and a Missouri. Both are 8-4, both can beat up on each other. That's the nature of the industry. But with that, you still are going to see the premier teams of the SEC. Georgia's not going to go away quietly. Georgia's still going to be Georgia. Texas is going to be one of the best teams in college football next year. I can guarantee you right now, I'll write it in permanent marker. Texas is going to be in the college football playoff. That's how confident I am in what Steve Sarkisian's doing this offseason. A&M's still going to be a good team. Alabama's still going to be a good team. But on the flip side, you are going to have that drop-off. So instead of seeing like 6 or 7 teams go 10-2 or 9-3, it's going to be about 5 teams that go 10-2 or 9-3. And then there's going to be about 5 or 6 teams that go about 8-4, 7-5. And there's going to be about 5 or 6 teams that go 5-7 or 4-8. Just like we see in the Big 10. And there's going to be more parity in the sport. There's going to be more opportunities for teams from the Big 10, from the Big 12, from the ACC, to have multiple representation in the college football playoff. That's what it is. So I still think that the SEC is the most complete conference in terms of overall NFL prospects, high-end potential, more value when it comes to players that we will see become All-Americans. And they're always going to get the offseason hype because they've earned it. But now, with the Big 10 potentially winning 3 straight national championships, the SEC can no longer just stick out its chest and say, well, we're the best conference. Because the best conference at the end of the day wins the whole damn thing. And you haven't been in the final 2 in 3 years. You haven't won it in 4 years. We haven't been in 3. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big kicker in this, Cole. The fact you have not even been in the game in 3 years, much less won it. Cole, I talked about this after the season opener when Texas lost at Ohio State, and you're right. I mean, the games on the field obviously have to matter. The on-field results have to matter. You can't, as the SEC, stick out your chest and say, we're the best, when you're not winning the games, when you're not winning the trophies. I think the SEC, top to bottom, the depth of the league is still the best conference in college football. The top of the SEC is no longer the best.
Sure.
In college football. Again, that is evidenced by who's in the national championship game, who's winning the trophies. You got to win the trophies to have that claim. You just have to. And the SEC, look at this past college football playoff, had a great opportunity with 5 teams in and fell mightily short in their effort to win one for the first time in a few years. So, yeah, I think that's the honest take of it. Listen, that's coming from a quote-unquote SEC homer. We call it as we see it. It is what it is. Like, you have to acknowledge what the Big Ten has done. And, listen, the SEC, the passion for the Southeastern Conference has always been at an unprecedented level. It has for years and years. It's why the SEC was winning to the level it was. It's why, for example, why SEC baseball outclasses the rest, because the support, the resources, everything around those programs is at such an elite level, while most others are at a average to slightly above average level. Well, bringing it back to college football, these top teams and these top programs in the Big Ten, they got massive fan bases too. And they got money too. And heck, a couple of these, they've got bigger fan bases than any SEC.
They got bigger boosters.
That's got bigger boosters. An Ohio State, a Penn State, a Michigan. Obviously now Indiana with Kurt Cignetti is getting in the mix. Yeah, the top of the Big Ten is better than the top of the SEC. Until we see it play out on the field, and I know that Oklahoma beat Michigan, obviously, but the SEC's best when they go toe-to-toe with the Big Ten have to beat the Big Ten's best. Yeah. It's why we said, and I get the game was week 1, but it's why we said in week 1 why that was such an important game for the conference, whether you felt like it was an overreaction or it was a skewed perception or however you want to phrase it, it was still a big deal and it was still a big game. And again, especially when you got an Ole Miss taking on a Miami, like you can make every excuse in the book, but these were games in the past that the SEC was winning. The thing that we hung our hat on so much was, hey, the 5th or 6th best team in the SEC would go win the ACC. The 5th or 6th best team in the SEC would win the Big Ten. Now I don't know if the best team in the SEC would win the Big Ten. I mean, from what we've seen on the field, that's not the case. So top to bottom, still best league. Best depth, any given Saturday, best talent. The draft numbers reflect that. There's no debate. But does the SEC run the sport of college football right now? No. And until you're hoisting that trophy, until you're hoisting those natty trophies, if you're honest with yourself, I don't know how you can debate it. I understand Greg Sankey, like you were talking about, Cole, he's got an obligation to fight for his league. But at the same time, you're right. It feels silly when, you know, you're saying we should get 7 or 8 teams. And it's like, should we have gotten 5?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
it's not even that, man. Like go a step further. Like the Vanderbilt Iowa game is a perfect epitome of this. Iowa and Vanderbilt had one total opt out in that game. It was Eli Stowers. Well, Eli Stowers doesn't play defense. Eli Stowers is not on Vanderbilt's secondary, and you're letting Iowa cook your ass. You're letting Iowa break through tackles and make big time runs, and their quarterback that was averaging 111 passing yards in the game, ending up with over 300. That's not on Eli Stowers. That's a team that was able to outwork you in a matchup that both sides cared about. That's just it. And then on the flip side, Texas had as many opt-outs as Michigan did, but Texas was the more complete team. It's the same thing. But that also shows you just the level of how much more of an even playing field that we're going to see moving forward, I think, in these two conferences. I agree with you. I think that from the standpoint of you give me the SEC or the Big Ten, I'm always going to lean the SEC in terms of proven talent. Talent perspective, you will always see names go the SEC. But from a winning standpoint, I'm sorry. Right now, you cannot say the SEC runs the world of college football. You can say they have a say. They have a big say. But they don't run it. Who runs it right now is the Big Ten. And to be completely transparent, outside of the Big 12, you can't say that you would win every single league. Because in my humble opinion, Miami just proved to everybody that they can hang in with a lot of SEC competition. And Miami got gypped out of playing in an ACC title game because of a technicality that came with their resume. They did. They should have been playing in Charlotte. They should have been ACC champions. And we're about to live in a world where I might make this so weird to say, but we're about to live in a world where Miami is closer to winning a national championship than they've ever been to winning an ACC title. Like, that shows you just how corrupt the other leagues are. So yeah, maybe an SEC team could win there because of they would have a better resume in terms of win-loss record in conference, and then they'd be fine. But like, we're literally about to live in that world, guys, where if Miami shows up the way they did against Ole Miss, they may end up winning a national title before they win a conference title. And Ole Miss nearly won a national title before they won an SEC title in Atlanta.
And I'll say this, I think Miami is one of those that's built like an SEC team, if we're totally honest, when you just look at the composition of them, or at least the way we think of an SEC team. Our guy Sandman Cole has a really good question in reference to this conversation we're having. He says, is the Big Ten coaching better than the SEC coaching overall? Well, the SEC just had 6 coaching changes. So maybe top to bottom, I don't know how – I mean, I don't think that's an outlandish question. And there's elite coaches in the Big Ten. I mean – you start going down the list. I mean, I think I'd call Ryan Day. He's a national championship winning coach. Kurt Cignetti obviously has established himself as an elite coach.
I respect the hell out of Kyle Whittingham.
I was going to say, I know he's brand new, but I think Kyle Whittingham's a hell of a coach.
Matt Campbell's a great coach.
Yeah, Matt Campbell's a really, really good coach at Penn State. I'm trying to think down the list. Brent Bielema is a good – listen, he's a hell of a coach too.
He's winning the SEC, but he's winning at Illinois. Yeah. So, I mean, credit where credit's due.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's where I would go real fast. I think we're pretty even when it comes to coaches. I really do. I think there is a lot more upside in both leagues than there are downsides. The Big Ten has better boosters than the SEC, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. I mean, you look at right now, Kirk Cignetti. He's a phenomenal coach. I'm never going to take that away from him. But you also look at Mark Cuban, a billionaire, finally saying, hey, you know what? Indiana football is actually really fun. I'm going to go now invest into that. Like, Alabama doesn't have that. Like Auburn doesn't have that. Florida has some bit of that, but like they're investing in other spots. And then you look at other sports, like Kentucky is investing in basketball. Arkansas is investing in basketball and football. Basketball and baseball. Like other programs are investing in other sports. So like the money that they have is being distributed to not football, which is fine. More power to you, I guess. But that's kind of the difference. Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Penn State, USC to a certain extent, Oregon with Phil Knight, they all have money. And they all have money and they all have boosters and billionaires that are willing to write a check to go ahead and say, we enjoy winning. Continue to do that. Like Phil Knight's never going away. Like even when he goes ahead and kicks the bucket, Nike is still going to give millions and millions of dollars to Oregon football because that's his pride.
I think a big part of this too, Cole, we have to be very just blunt about this. The departure of Nick Saban and the transition that Alabama is going through, and we're going to talk more about them in a second because it's worth discussing. I hate to call it like their fall off, but I mean, in comparison to what they were, Bama's taken a step back. That's had a huge impact on this.
Sure.
And I think that goes a long way in this conversation. And it kind of makes me stop and reflect and thinking, Cole, like they weren't the only one that won those natties, but like Alabama was a large part of the reason the league was able to beat its chest, if we're totally honest. Like you take Alabama out of the equation, there were still a lot of great teams. Don't get me wrong. But Bama winning those natties was a large part of the reason. Like Bama's transition from Nick Saban, I think is a large part of why the league, it feels like, has taken a step back. Because like even under their years, if it was still Nick Saban and Alabama and they were in the national title game, they won, like, okay, the SEC is still the best. They've got the best team in the country.
Sure.
Now you don't have that to fall back on. And Georgia hasn't necessarily, as elite as they are, they haven't really taken over that place. And I don't think anybody's ever going to, by the way, with this new era of college football. It's not, I mean, there's a reason Nick Saban got out when he did. It's just not going to happen. But I think that the SEC's quote unquote decline, if that's too strong of a word, forgive me, but the SEC's decline has gone hand in hand with Alabama's decline. I mean, no, that to me, it seems like that has gone hand in hand over these last few years.
You're not wrong. Here's what I will say. So think about the times that Clemson and Florida State won the national title. Those years. They always played against an SEC team. Alabama, it was Auburn, 2013. The beauty of what was Nick Saban was you could always come back and trust that Alabama was going to be in the picture the following year. So that allowed you to feel confident that the rest of the SEC could go ahead and have another battle. So much like when we talk about with Alabama, the reason why they were able to consistently have one or two hiccups or underwhelming seasons is because Alabama was carrying the weight of being able to go play in a national championship, but they lost. But you still have to throw in the years before Alabama actually won a title. LSU won a title in 2003. And then you got to throw in Florida in 2006 and 2008 and LSU in 2007. And then you have to throw in Alabama in 2009 and Auburn in 2010. And so like they still had the wins. Alabama just was able to go ahead and stick its chest out because of the level of talent that they brought on in, the level of consistency that they had, the sheer force of being able to upset you. I mean, I remember when I was in school, I remember when I graduated, like Tua Tagovailoa was just coming on up. And there were games that Tua didn't even play in the fourth quarter. Like that was how level of dominant Alabama was. So it's just like at that capacity, everyone saw what was the most terrifying team in college football just deliver almost on every single expectation. And then the other part was how many of those schools around the SEC, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, insert other team here, they went on, they added in a Saban disciple and they said, try to emulate what Nick Saban did at our school. And like the bottom line is that you can't do that. Like the beauty of what is Kirk Cignetti at Indiana, it's the greatest turnaround I've ever seen in college sports, and maybe the greatest turnaround in sports in general. There are going to be people out there that say, we need to find a coach that can do exactly that. There isn't one. There just isn't. And that was the thing about Nick Saban. You could try to emulate him all you want. You could try to copycat his overall ideologies. You couldn't do it. And I think that Kirby figured that out pretty quickly. They said at Georgia, do it like Nick. No, I can't do it like Nick. Because if I do it like Nick, he's going to beat me. So I change up a few things, and now I'm able to hold my own against Nick. And now I'm able to beat him in a national championship. And now I'm able to compete for college football playoff berths. Now I'm able to compete for college football titles. So it's like, to me, that is where you realize the value of a team like Alabama. They always were able just to be so dominant and so impactful, and they never had their foot off the gas, and they always were overreacting to the little details, which carried a lot of weight for them to be able to guarantee that they were playing in national titles. And now they don't have that anymore. And now there's more parity in the sport. And now Alabama's not a shoo-in every single year to play in Atlanta. And they're not a shoo-in to be in the college football playoff. And that's kind of where we are at this point in the world of college football, at least in the SEC.
Cole, in closing here, you know, the storylines range on a yearly basis, of course, going into each new season. And we're a ways away from 2026. But what in your mind is the big storyline for the league going into 2026? Now that, again, I think going into 2025, there was a lot of talk of, like, you know, it felt like, number one, Texas was a big talking point. Everybody thought Texas, this is the year Texas, they're going to take over with Arch Manning, or at least a lot of talking heads out there thought that. Texas, I believe, was picked to win the league by the media. In retrospect, we should all win Georgia again. But either way, that was a big talking point. But a lot of it was like, can the SEC get back to the mountaintop? Now it's going to be 3 straight years. Like, what? I'm intrigued. I'm fascinated by, like, and we're going to talk about it all offseason, like what the big storyline is. I don't know if the focus is more, and I guess it depends on, like, what happens with the playoff too, by the way. Are we going to, and more on that in a second, are we going to 16? We staying at 12, whatever. I don't know if the talking point is on a macro level of playoff and national titles, or if it's more of a micro of, like, hey, in order to get back to that point, LSU needs to pop under Lane Kiffin. Georgia needs to keep being Georgia under Kirby. Alabama needs to figure it out under Caden Durham. Get tougher, get back to being Alabama. Ole Miss needs to continue to ascend. Texas A&M needs to find a way to break through. You know, I wonder if it's more, again, for that macro, that micro level, but in your mind, the top storyline for the league going into the 2026 season, if you had to think of it right now.
What was legit in 2025 would be it for me. Is LSU going to still be a 7-5 team? Are they going to be a roster that, even when they bring in Lane Kiffin, they end up still underachieving because of that's just the new norm? What about Vanderbilt? Were they a one and done, or are they actually really going to be back in the conversation of are they going to be in the conversation of being a viable threat year in and year out? Ole Miss, what are you going to look like now with Pete Golding fully in charge of the roster? Alabama, are you still going to be a soft team that ends up winning games against underqualified opponents, but at the same time, are you going to not live up to the expectations in the big time games? Are we going to see more of a distinction between what we witnessed last season with Georgia? Are you going to still be the favorites to end up winning the whole damn thing? Texas, what are you changing about your overall roster that puts you right back in the conversation of being a legitimate threat to win a national title? What was fool's gold and what was reality moving forward in the SEC? Because I feel like next year, this is a team that, this is a season where we're going to come up with narratives for rosters. A Lane Kiffin-led roster is always going to end up coming up short. Because, again, what happened in the first time that you didn't have Lane Kiffin out there? You won against Georgia in a college football playoff game. You went 2-1 in those matchups. Alabama, they're a soft team underneath Caden Durham. Shane Beamer, is he every other year on the hot seat going from being, we're about ready to fire him to a 9-win campaign fighting for a college football playoff berth? Narratives will be formed because of what we see in the year of 2026 in the world of college football.
Yeah, I think that's the big storyline, Cole. New coaches and new destinations, how many of them pop? I think the league needs desperately a lot of those, if not all of them, to pop, have good seasons. I think it's obviously only going to strengthen the league. But, hey, getting brands like Auburn back and rolling, getting Florida back and rolling, like getting Tennessee playing at a higher – like some of these brands we become so accustomed to being good. Auburn and Florida definitely are two. We're like, they haven't been good in forever. Like we need, as a league, need to get them back up and running. It's only going to help strengthen the league. So, guys, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it, where the league currently stands, your honest assessment of the SEC as we enter the 2026 offseason, preseason, what have you. Guys, we got a lot more to get into. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about our friends over at Underdog, because as always, we are brought to you by our friends at Underdog. Guys, football season is in full swing, and Underdog is the best place to get into all the action. Playing at Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. Get your picks right. You go into 5,000 times your cash. Guys, this week on Underdog, it's not just football, by the way. We got lots of college basketball action. You can take more or less. Obviously, conference plays in full swing. We do have the national championship a week from today. You think it's going to be Indiana? You think it's going to be Miami? What does each player do in the ball game? Again, you can take higher or lower. Download the app today. Use promo code SECU to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code SECU. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 and up, 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Cole, let's get into everybody's favorite offseason storylines. That being college football playoff expansion. I know. I saw this and I was like, now it feels like peak offseason. Now it feels like college football offseason, because this was shared yesterday over the weekend. Heather Dinich, senior college football insider for ESPN, posted this. The Big Ten is willing to consider a 16-team college football playoff field in 2026 if the SEC will commit to a 24-team field 2 or 3 years later. Multiple sources told ESPN. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has no interest in committing to that right now. Sources said, and if Sankey and the Big Ten Commissioner Tony Batiti can't reach a compromise by January 23rd, which is in 11 days, the field will remain at 12. Cole, I think it's inevitable we're going to continue to expand. I think 24 is going to happen. I have no doubt that 24 is going to happen. No question. Your immediate reaction to the news or the reports?
You're
not an expand. You think it should go to 8, correct?
I've always said 8
put
was
it
the
at
perfect
8.
number. Because of 8, there's no arguing. You have the SEC first team and the runner-up. Then you have the Big Ten and their runner-up. And then you throw in the Big 12 winner, the ACC winner, and then 2 at-large bids. Usually it's going to be Notre Dame and insert other team here. And none of that is going to be upsetting for anybody. And there's more quality for the sport. And then the regular season matters.
Think about this playoff. Think about how excited everybody was when we got down to 8. People were like, this is a great playoff if you just look at it as an 8-team playoff. And it's like,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Interesting.
Take out JMU, take out Tulane. Now, Texas A&M would have been in, I think, the field.
Yeah.
And then you got to ask yourself, what would have happened to Miami, who's playing for a national championship? But still, you put them in, you still have 8 great teams vying for their spot in the playoff, which, in my opinion, is fantastic. But I also will say that if you had to have a 12-team playoff, I could accept that because of, with the 12-team format, we got to see Notre Dame and Ohio State, 2 teams that were potentially on the outside looking in last year, compete for a national title bid. This season, Miami is going to compete for the national title bid. Like, that's just the case because of the expansion. But you get to a level of where it's like, who really is deserving? A genuine question, guys. How many teams can actually win a national championship? Because if you would have told me that Indiana could win a national title, I would have said yes. If you would have told me that Miami could win a national title, at the start of the year, I said that they could because I liked the way the roster was built. But you're really going to tell me that we have to throw in the 5th and the 6th ranked SEC team and the 5th and the 6th ranked Big Ten team because of it creates more parity for the sport? No. All it does is it whittles down the rest of the regular season. It gives you more opportunities to say, oh, well, we don't need to win this game. We can look at scenarios and observations of where if we just do X, Y, and Z, we're in a good spot. You're eventually going to take away the conference championship weekend, and you're going to create another way for them to get on in. But no matter how you phrase it, all you're doing is you're expanding for more teams that probably can't win a national championship to just be in the field for random opponents. That's all it is at this point. So it's gonna happen. It is, but we got to hit a cap. And the problem that I have, Chris, is like you say, oh, we're gonna have 16. We're gonna have 16 teams, only to create 24. Then just go to 24.
Yeah.
Like if you're already gonna say, well, we're only keeping 16 for now, but then in 4 years we're adding 8 more. Just do it now. Just double the playing field for 2026 at this point. Because all you're doing is you're wasting time and you're wasting money when you could just be expanding and doing what is a television product.
Bowl games have to be eliminated if we go to 24, right? Like you can't have the same bowl schedule and have a 24-team playoff, right?
You're going to have a crap ton of people who are not involved at all. Like you're going to have a crap ton of teams opt out. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, a 24-team playoff will pretty much kill bowl season as a whole. I just because then it's really like if you're not in the playoff, why are you playing in a bowl game? Like, why do you care?
What's the reasoning behind it?
I agree with you, by the way. Realistically, 4 to 6 teams, 4 to 5 maybe, can win it all on a yearly basis. But the question I have for you, does Miami as a 10 seed, does that poke holes in that theory? Or should Miami be viewed as one of the 4 or 5 best teams in college football and they were just underranked, underrated, whatever?
See, I always thought that Miami got a bad break from the get-go. Because if I remember telling you when the initial college football playoff rankings came out, why is Miami at 18 when Notre Dame, who lost to them, is at 9?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was always an issue I had from the get-go, is why are we allowing a team that is still the same record and has a head-to-head win over another team, why are they coming in 8 spots lower? Because they already said, oh, because we think they're going to lose another game, and this is the way that we can justify it. So, like, Miami should have always been right next to Notre Dame or not ahead of Notre Dame. And maybe that'll be something in the future that the college football playoff committee will work with. But until further notice, I mean, like, it's moronic after moronic take when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Here's the other problem, though, with it, Cole. How many people in the preseason would have included Indiana in one of their top 4 or 5 or 6 teams in the country that could win it all?
Oh, nobody. But I think I will say this. After that Illinois trouncing, where they beat the brakes off of the Illini, a decent Illini team, not a great one, but still a decent one, and they made them look pathetic. Everyone should have been taking Indiana seriously at that point. That's when I started taking Indiana seriously.
Fair enough. I will say this, because I know I get it. I get the cringing, the vomiting over like the idea of a 24-team playoff. But at the same time, if I'm playing devil's advocate, and I know I was stunned by the viewership numbers. I was impressed. Kudos, college football fans, for sticking it to somebody like me and proving me wrong when I said that bowl season has lost its luster. It doesn't hit the same anymore. I mean, Cole, you saw them. I mean, people showed out to watch the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They were fired up for that game. People showed out to watch some other. I mean, I think it was like one of the highest rated or most viewed. We're
going to take him out and then we'll try and get him back on the stage because he definitely was like glitching at that standpoint. Now, from my standpoint, where I view it, there's 2 ways that you can look at it. The first is that you can go ahead and say that we are going to move it to 24 games. At that level, you have to then start the playoff the following week. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't expand the season all the way into what would be the middle of February just because of you want to have a 24-team playoff. The second thing is you probably would have to get rid of conference championship weekend. And that's something that I am very much against, and I have been against, and I never will be for, because if I think that there is so much value in winning your conference title game. There isn't for college basketball, there isn't for college baseball. There should be value for the college football landscape as well. Welcome back. As you would.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I've got this new interface that we're gonna have to work out the kinks with or something. Anyways, all I was gonna say was bowl season, I think, has lost some luster to this point anyways. So at least if you have 24 teams in the playoff, there are more games that matter. You can't say like bowl games don't matter anymore because a lot of those bowl games are going to go away and they're going to be replaced by playoff games that matter. That players, I mean, now you get into tricky territory, though, where it's like, hey, if you got 2 8-4 teams playing in the, God, I don't even know what the seeding matchup would be, but like the 24th team in, is everybody playing in that playoff? Are guys not opting out because they're like, I mean, what real shot do we have to win the whole thing? So I guess that's a whole other can of worms to open. But yeah, Cole, we're going that way. It's all about money. It is. Like, man, these decisions aren't made with what is best for the sport. These decisions aren't made that way. They're not. So I think getting away from just 1v2 BCS wasn't a bad move. I think the 4-team playoff probably solved the problem. I agree with you. I don't know why we skipped over 8. I think we should have given 8 a try first, but it's all a money grab at the end of the day. They understand the value and that people will watch these games. You and I are going to watch them. We're not going to not watch them. We're not going to not cover them.
Anybody argues move the national championship to a Saturday. Okay, don't watch it on Monday. You're going to watch it.
That is just too common sense, though. That's outrageous. Like, why? What value? What? I guess, is it because it's standalone? I don't get it. I don't understand what value it has. Yeah.
Because if it's a standalone game, you're not fighting the NFL. The NFL is never changing its ways. They are always going to have Saturday and Sunday in January. So you have to settle for Monday. And because if ESPN wants to guarantee it has the highest ratings, they're always going to have it.
Put it on Thursday. Let's make Thursday night football and college football great again.
I would be okay with that.
I mean, remember how great Thursdays used to be, and now it's a complete joke.
Here's the one thing I will say. If you do go to 24 teams, the playoff has to begin sooner. You cannot have cannot have the season going until the middle of February, because if you want to have these games, it has to go the week after the conference championship. It just does.
Or, kiss conference title games goodbye.
And I hate that. I'm
too.
sorry, I'm never going to be for that.
Yeah, I hate it too. I do. I think it still means something to win a ring, to win your conference. I think it still means something. But Cole, you and I can scream all we want to the ether, but
it's going to happen.
Expansion's coming. Expansion's coming. We all just
I'll kick and scream and holler and bitch and mope and cry and do whatever I freaking can to go ahead and complain about this for as long as possible. But as the person who has told you for the last 2 years how much he hates expansion, how much he despises that there's 12 teams, I've accepted that we're going to go to 16, and then it's 24, and that's going to be 32.
And then what? Yeah, and then we're going to get literally March Madness in college football.
And then screw the regular season, because who the hell cares about that? Just play in the playoff. You get one game a year.
Yeah, it'll literally, the regular season will be just for pride and nothing else. Because a 7-5, 6-6 team is getting in, which is crazy to think about.
Yep.
Cole, let's move into some massive transfer portal news. You covered a lot of it yesterday, which I appreciate you doing so, because Sunday was a wildly busy day for the transfer portal. But we've had news come out today as well. Just really quickly, again, guys, you can go back on our YouTube, check out our show. Cole did a great job breaking down the Sunday news. Cam Coleman to Texas, Deuce Knight to Ole Miss, Eric Singleton to Florida. Just really briefly, Cole, I think for obvious reasons, Cam Coleman to Texas is massive. They went out in his recruitment, if you will, out of the portal. Feels good. We knew Texas was going to be very, very active in the transfer portal. I think they needed to go out and get a one. Apparently, Ryan Wingo was a big part of his recruitment, which I think says a lot about Ryan Wingo. But immediately, top target for Arch Manning. I would expect him to have a massive year. Cam Coleman was a guy that was wildly underutilized at Auburn. He'll have good quarterback play. He'll have a guy in Steve Sarkisian that's a good offensive mind. I expect Cam Coleman to thrive. Deuce Knight to Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss is still fighting the Trinidad Chambliss thing. We'll see what happens, but I think this is another guy. It's funny. We're talking a lot of Auburn because essentially their entire team at the portal, but I think Deuce Knight's a good pickup for them. I think wildly talented dude. You saw how excited Auburn fans were. So, I think in that offensive system with their new offensive coordinator, I think he can flourish, have a lot of success. And then Eric Singleton, you can't have too many good weapons on the outside. So should all be positive additions to each of their respective teams. Cole, the big news today I want to spend time on. This came out this morning, and there's been more development since we've been live, but Lane Kiffin has gotten his quarterback. Arizona State's Sam Leavitt, reported by Pete Thamel to be committing to the LSU Tigers. Now, within the last couple hours, Cole, there has been some reports that Tennessee is still pushing to land his services, but all in all, it does sound like LSU is going to get Sam Leavitt. Your immediate reaction, there was a lot of speculation. Obviously, it's been a crazy last couple days with the Damon Howard thing. There's been some other players that seem like we're in the mix for LSU to land, but it looks like when the dust settles, it will be Arizona State Sam Leavitt. Thoughts on the pickup?
I trust Lane Kiffin like I'm sure most people trust their parents to watch their children when they go away for the weekend when it comes to offensive personnel. You tell me that you give me a D3 quarterback and a walk-on wide receiver, Lane Kiffin's going to make it work. He's going to find a way to do it. I don't worry about any of that stuff. It just is common sense. But it doesn't hurt to be able to get one of the best names in the portal. I'll be completely transparent. I think that Sam Leavitt, at his peak, has the intangibles to be a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback. He has the intangibles to be a national championship quarterback. Everything that you want from the moxie, the swagger, the mentality, the arm angles, his decision-making, his overall rapport and offensive personnel, they're through the roof. And to get a guy that just needs some refinement, maybe put into a better system that already works really well in an RPO format, it's a win for Lane Kiffin. It's a win for LSU, and it's a good way to set the standard for a new era of Tiger football. Like, this is the way that why you go to a place like LSU. Because if you know that you can pick up a guy like Sam Leavitt in the transfer portal, you know that he is going to view this as a premier destination and a place to where I am going to thrive. I am going to be elevated by my situation around me. And this will be a landing spot to where I think a lot of people that are currently in the portal that haven't made their decision yet, they may start looking at LSU and going, I want to play here. I want to go ahead and block for that quarterback. I mean, he was phenomenal in the college football playoff last season. You know, everyone wants to talk about Cam Scatterbo, and for good reason. But he made some impressive throws against Texas, and he was a fourth down conversion away from not connecting with Matthew Golden and being in the college football playoff semifinal. And this past season, he was dealing with injuries, wasn't fully healthy throughout most of the year, did have a couple of lulls, a little bit of a setback, but you got to remind yourself that Lane Kiffin's going to surround him with really good personnel. I mean, they just landed Winston Watkins, who I think is going to be a superstar wide receiver. They just landed they landed the Hawaii kid, who I think is going to be phenomenal in this offense. On top of that, they landed back Caden Durham in the running back room. They still have Harlem Berry. They have Trey'Dez Green, who is a human highlight reel. So, like, the cupboard is far from bare for LSU to be able to say, immediately come on into our system, learn the ins and outs of Kiffin's offense, thrive because of your supporting cast around you. And that was a big time deal to where you look at what he was able to accomplish the last 2 years in Arizona State. He's going to be able to duplicate that next season down in Baton Rouge if he can stay healthy. Now, LSU still has got to be able to get better on the offensive line, much like Texas. They got to go out and add in some more pieces in the portal. But I do think that from a situational standpoint, this was the number one quarterback in the transfer portal for me. This was the number one destination for him. This goes together like biscuits and gravy, mashed potatoes and brown gravy, like chicken fried steak on a Friday night. You just know it works. And to have that automatically to set your standard moving forward, you got to feel really confident about this if you're Lane Kiffin going into 2026 for setting a new standard out in Baton Rouge.
4,652 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 11 picks for Sam Leavitt in his 3-year college career. Cole, with Lane Kiffin's track record and the array of weapons that LSU will return in 2026, I don't think there's any reason to believe that Sam Leavitt won't be a contender for the Heisman Trophy. And
sure.
That might sound like an overreaction, but worked out pretty well the last time LSU got an Arizona State quarterback. So they got to figure out some things, offensive line, running game. They got to have more balance. But if there's one thing I can trust with Lane Kiffin, it's that the offense is going to click.
And like the quarterback's going to be killing.
And the quarterback's going to kill. And like you said, it's not like the cupboard's bare. They've got some freaks on the offensive side of the football. They've got some dudes. I feel very confident saying Sam Leavitt is going to be one of the best signal callers in the country in 2026. And he's probably, again, going to put up numbers that at least at some point in the season, we're going to be talking about him and potentially making the trip to New York. It's what Lane Kiffin does.
Yeah.
I mean, he took a D2 guy at Ole Miss and turned him into, and I'm taking nothing away, obviously, from Trinidad Chambliss, but he turned him into what he was. So, yeah, I think a guy in Sam Leavitt who has all the potential, all the upside. I don't know why anyone would expect anything else other than for him to flourish under Lane Kiffin. So,
I mean, you have two of the best young up-and-coming wide receivers or veteran receivers coming on in J.C. Brown from Kansas State and Trey Wilson from Florida. They got to stay healthy. Leavitt's got to stay healthy. But from a situational fit standpoint, how the hell do you not like him? Like, how do you not like this fit for him? And the other thing that I really like is that he's able to be mobile. Another element that made Trinidad Chambliss such a threat. You have that in Sam Leavitt that can go ahead and be mobile once again, continue to utilize drives. He makes situations work in his favor. And that was a big-time deal of why Arizona State was so prominent in a year that a lot of people thought that they were going to be the bottom dwellers of the Big 12. And if he wins here, I mean, once again, we're talking about a dude that's going to be able to be, as you said, Heisman Trophy finalist, potential first-round draft pick. There's a reason why quarterbacks leave Lane Kiffin's system better prepared for the next chapter of their lives.
Really quickly, Cole, and I think one of the things that's going to help Sam Leavitt out that previous quarterbacks at LSU in the last couple of years did not have, I think they're going to be more balanced. They're going to have a running game. Why did Trinidad Chambliss have so much success at Ole Miss? Well, Kewan Lacey was a big part of that. It won't be Kewan Lacey in Baton Rouge, but we did get word today, Cole, Caden Durham is back for the Tigers. He announced he was pulling his name from the transfer portal. He will return. Really quickly, thoughts on this one. I think this is a move that made sense for both sides after you didn't get Kewan Lacey. There was a lot of talk maybe there was going to be a swap. Lacey going to Baton Rouge, Caden Durham going to Ole Miss. Once he decided to stay, Caden Durham's a really high-quality player. This is not a guy that, I mean, maybe he hasn't put up Kewan Lacey numbers, obviously, but really, really highly sought-after recruit, really talented player. There are worse guys to build your running game around than a Caden Durham, and he should help out Sam Leavitt big time in 2026.
He finished last season with over 500 rushing yards. The year before, he had over 700 rushing yards.
Behind those offensive lines?
Yeah, behind a really crappy offensive line.
That's crazy.
So the thing is that if you better up and bolster the trenches, you're going to get better play from him. And here's the other thing, Chris. Like, people want to go ahead and talk about Lane Kiffin with the explosive passing attack down the field. And he loves going ahead and uncorking it, letting it fly. But at the same time, it's all predicated on the run. Like, so many people are looking at what has been Lane Kiffin loves to pass football. Yeah, because he runs it at a high-end rate. And so now that you have Harlan Berry, now that you have Caden Durham back, and as long as you're able to bolster up your trenches, you got to feel pretty good about where you are in terms of the overall status of the run game. I think Caden Durham is going to have a bounce-back year. I think that he's a much better fit for this offense than we're giving a lot of credit to. Him and Harlan Berry are going to take a lot of pressure off of Sam Leavitt. That's a good thing, because guess what happened? When you took pressure off of Sam Leavitt when he had Cam Scatterbo, you went to the college football playoff. So same thing could be happening down in Baton Rouge this upcoming season.
Cole, let's move to some other big portal news. This did come out late Sunday, just getting to it now. But again, better late than never, because Texas continues to make massive news via the portal as they get running back Hollywood Smothers to flip from Alabama. He's now headed to Austin. Cole, this is a big get. We've seen running backs left and right leave Texas, but the running game gets a big, big boost. Hollywood Smothers, a guy that obviously began his career in Norman, spent the last couple at NC State. We talked about him a little bit, I think, when he committed to Alabama, but he's a guy that in 2025 rushed for just under 1,000 yards, had a really, really productive season for the Wolfpack, had 6 touchdowns on the season, ran it right at 6 yards per carry. This is a big pickup for the Horns, man, and it's I tell you what, it says a lot about Texas football, Cole, as well. The fact that they're able to go in, a guy Smothers who was enrolled in classes at Alabama just had not signed the NIL agreement. They said, not so fast, my friend. We need you down here in the 40 acres.
Well, go a step further. They also didn't lose Riley Brown, which was another big time move, because if that was a human highlight reel at Arizona State, he was averaging over 5 yards of play, and he is good in terms of the trenches. But you look at what you're getting in a guy like Hollywood Smothers, elite home run speed, good north to south runner. He can get vertical on you, and he's a big threat in the passing game. Last 2 seasons, over 50 catches, 4 total touchdowns, averaging about 9.2 yards a play. So he's going to be another element added on in to help bolster up what is supposed to be a revamped passing attack, I think, for Texas this upcoming year with what you bring in Cam Coleman. But here's the bottom line. Texas is making it clear because they said, we like what we're getting in Raleek Brown. We really want to add in more pieces. So let's go ahead and bring in Hollywood Smothers. They're making it abundant that they are all in for 2026. This is a season where they are making it as much as possible. Everything that we do is about competing for a national title. Yeah, we got to spend a lot of money, and yeah, we got to go let go of some of the pieces that we really like. Parker Livingston, Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter. But we're making sure that we're elevating our roster. We are building a super squad, Avengers level team that is basically an unpenetrable force that is going to bring the SEC back to the primetime light and the stratosphere of running college football. And it's okay for them. They have the money to do so, and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. They would not be outbid for other people. And the other part is that when you look at Steve Sarkisian's success rate at bringing in transfer portal players, 95% of the time it ends up working. And so this is a season where they realize we have a quarterback that is hitting his stride at the right time in Arch Manning. We trust our defense to be able to revamp in a lot of pieces. And just for good measure, we're going to bring in a linebacker from Pitt. We're going to bring in a top 50 cornerback from Rutgers. We're going to feel really good about our depth in the defensive line. We like our recruiting class. But we're going to make sure that any question mark that we still have in the positional outreach, we're going to elevate. And so now they're making it abundant that 10-2 is not good enough. Being a team that just is a college football playoff dark horse, not good enough. Making the postseason, it's an expectation. That's all it is. It is a non-negotiable. Because if you went and put your money where your mouth is, and you said that we're going to spend, and we're going to make sure that we have crossed off every single box for us to end up being the threat in the conference. And that's what adding in a Hollywood Smothers says. That's what adding in a Cam Coleman says. Because they could have gone to Texas Tech and Alabama, and some booster said, nope, I'm going to pay it. What's the price differential? That much? Here. Get them on campus, get them in the locker room, get them ready for next season. They're all in for 2026.
Texas is acting how they should. You're a bully.
Yeah.
Like you have the resources. Like, you have everything at your disposal. Be the bully that you are. Like, who cares he committed to Bama? Go get him. Yeah, it's a big boost to the run game, obviously, what it means on the field. Another weapon for Arch Manning and the weapon for Steve Sarkisian, the offense. Really high-quality player. I agree with you. Keeping the kid from Arizona State as well. Having that duo of these players really, really big. But I just love the overall mentality and the energy from Texas. Like, go get your guy. Like, whatever. This is college football in 2026. Like, whatever. He and by the way, he didn't have any contractual. Nothing was signed. So while he's still open and free to do what he wants, I mean, give him a ring, get him on campus, do whatever. Like, look, we don't speak broke at Texas. You got the money. Go get him. Go get him, man. Look,
we already are saying for LSU to be the villain of college football. Embrace who you are. You already went out to go try to bring in Devon Williams. Texas. You're Texas. You have the money. You have the resources. You have the alumni that teams like Ohio State and Indiana and Michigan have, that USC has, that Washington has, that Oregon has. Spend it, because this is the new norm in college football. The brand itself will sell the identity to bring in recruits. It will allow you to have a good foundation in place in terms of the recruiting assets. To better your roster, when you know that you have a quarterback that is going to go pro after this season, that is going to need to be able to take that next step forward, spend the millions. And the only thing that you can do is just laugh at the people who are poor. And it's not me saying that, that should be the mentality of everybody, but that is the difference between a place like Alabama and Texas right now. Texas does have those boosters. Go out and ask for it. Say, hey, listen, do you want us to win national titles? You want us to keep all these players around? Here's what we need. And I guarantee you that about 95% of them will go, oh, yeah, that's it. Here, take it. That's the difference of a price between this kid going here or there. Yeah, screw it. We'll go ahead and sign him on up.
Hollywood Smothers to Austin. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think you could argue Texas has upgraded their running back room. Here's the thing, though. It ain't going to matter if that offensive line don't get fixed.
Yeah.
You got to get that offensive line fixed. I don't give a damn what you got in the backfield. Texas has got to make a large leap on the offensive line.
Yeah, period. But at the same time, again, you do what you got to do. And I agree with you. They upgrade the running back room in both spots. Very much so. And Steve Sarkisian added in some weapons to where a lot of people are going to have to sit down and shut up about his play calling, because they're going to fit what he wants to run.
Cole, in closing, before we get out of here, on the other side of this is something I want to discuss with you, because it's sort of evolved over the last couple of days, last couple of weeks, really, since Alabama lost in the Rose Bowl the way they did to Indiana. Is it time to hit the panic button for Alabama fans? Or are we getting at least close to that time? Let's think about where Alabama sits right now. 8 losses in 2 seasons to Caden Durham. You're taking not just losing games, uncharacteristic ass whippings. Alabama is historically losing football games. The way they lost Indiana, first time I think since 1998, you had lost by 35 or more. The way you lost to Georgia, we hadn't seen an Alabama team get dominated like that in forever. Losing games that you should win, a la Florida State to open the season. You could even call the Oklahoma game at home. Now you're losing prospects in the transfer. You're losing players to the portal. Some really good players, I might add. Isaiah Horton was one. He goes to Texas A&M. You can't even keep a kid in Hollywood Smothers committed to sign to you. He now goes to Texas. And since Nick Saban left, Cole, it's a feeling of negative momentum. It hasn't been a dramatic fall off all at once, but it's like slowly but surely. It's like the water hitting the shore, just kind of slowly eroding at it, just eroding. And those cracks in the armor, it feels like, are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Am I overreacting, or is there real cause for concern here? Is Alabama post Nick Saban, dare I say, not the program that we think they are?
I won't go that far yet. I don't think it's fair to go that far yet. Here's the bottom line. In a day and age of college football, where revenue distribution and players going to the highest bidder, we're quite literally, and it feels disgusting to say, but you're buying talent. You are buying players to come to your school. Alabama does not have the resources that Texas has. They don't. They don't have the resources that LSU has. They don't have the resources that Ohio State has, Michigan has, Indiana has. They just don't. And the boosters that they do have are not willing to spend the price on certain players just to guarantee that they come suited on up. Alabama has always been meticulous, even back in the Nick Saban days when, you were paying behind closed doors, on how to bring in certain talent. They were only willing to go to a certain threshold of where they were willing to spend. And that's their identity, because they want to go ahead and develop talent in their way. They also want to be able to bring in a brand of player that is going to be locked in as an Alabama Crimson Tideman. They don't want to just go to the highest bidder and say, oh, every single offseason, we got to go ahead and argue with you if you want to be here or not. Like Isaiah Bond and Caleb Downs. Remember that big conversation? Going to Georgia, going to Ohio State. Well, then they went to Alabama, and then they lose to Michigan. And then they go to the transfer portal, and one goes to Texas and one goes to Ohio State. 2 schools that really were targeting them from the get-go in their recruiting process, because they're not willing to spend in that capacity. They just aren't, and they never will. And largely it's because of the money that they don't have, but it's also the way they want to utilize their distribution. That's just the bottom line. And they want to spend it on certain positions, and they view premium value for other positions, and that's a non-negotiable. So missing out on a Cam Coleman, and people are like, it's a big-time deal. It's a big deal because they weren't willing to meet Cam Coleman on what he wanted in terms of NIL. They weren't willing to go ahead and push more further ahead when it came to a long-term deal with Hollywood Smothers. They weren't willing to go spend on the defensive lineman that committed to LSU in Josephs that left Tennessee. They just weren't willing to do those things. And when they got new deals set in place, they realized there are certain players that we can afford to continue to have around here. And there are ones that we're willing to go ahead and just let go, and best of luck in your future endeavors. And hopefully we don't end up regretting having you here. But they're not going to spend the way that Texas does. They aren't. They aren't going to spend the way that I think even Florida to a certain extent does. LSU does. And so now coaching is going to end up being a premium at a place like Alabama. You have to have not just a great head coach, which I think Caden Durham is. Yeah, you lose 6 games, and yeah, you lose in embarrassing fashion to Indiana. But, Indiana embarrassed Oregon. They dismantled Oregon, so you got to feel at least somewhat better about it. Like they were on a collision course to absolute dominance to any team they would have faced. But it's more than just Caden Durham. It's you have to have the right offensive line coach. You have to have the right secondary coach. You have to have an offensive coordinator that is going to push forward with a certain personnel. He is going to elevate the overall identity of the offensive line. They're going to elevate the quarterback position. You're going to have a linebackers coach that's in the face of the middle linebackers when they miss an assignment. At a place like Alabama, you're never going to be able to outbid a Texas. So you're going to have to outcoach them. And that's going to become something that I think is a major deal and a difference maker in the Kalen DeBoer era. When we look back 2 or 3 years from now, what went wrong for Kalen DeBoer if he's fired? It's because if he didn't have the right coaches leading the pathway for a lot of these kids, because if you're not going to be able to win when it comes to just outbidding a player, a guy like Cam Coleman will pick Texas 10 times out of 10 if it's a money thing. They will lose that battle. They just will, because they're not willing to spend it on that. Not just because they don't have the type of money, but because they want to spend their money properly.
I mean, this applies to a lot of schools, Cole, but I guess I would just say that it feels like the brand of Alabama still obviously matters. It does, but it doesn't matter to the level that it used to.
Sure.
And that's why parity's happening and players are going to other schools. Like it's not like there's just like 5 or 6 schools that have a monopoly in all of college football. You don't have to go to one of these 5 schools to have a shot to win it all. We're obviously seeing that. Yeah, I mean, this is just a different, unprecedented era for Alabama fans. Like this is a very, and we knew somebody had to fall on the sword. Somebody had to draw the short end of the stick. And Kalen DeBoer said, I'll do it. I'll be that guy. You know, I'll take on the challenge. But unfortunately, Cole, his tenure's going about, I think, how a lot of folks thought it would. And it very well may end with him no longer being the head coach this time next year. I mean, you almost feel like there had to be that sacrificial lamb. He feels like at this point, that sacrificial lamb. And unless something vastly changes over this offseason, and I'm not trying to overreact to losing one guy, a running back, but it's just a trend of things we're seeing where it's like Alabama they don't feel like Alabama as much anymore. Again, I think this was inevitable. He's not Nick Saban, right? But yeah, just the momentum does not feel positive around the Alabama football program right now. I think that's the bigger point I'm trying to make. The momentum around this program does not feel positive right now.
The good news is, and we can break this on air because it just happened, they did add in an offensive lineman to hopefully bolster up their trenches. 5-star Ty Haywood is leaving Michigan to come to Tuscaloosa. That literally just happened. So
that's
congratulations
big.
to Alabama.
That's
very big. That is very, very big. Here's the one thing I will say, though. I don't worry about Alabama at wide receiver. Like losing a guy like Cam Coleman, okay, so be it. They're in the running for Noah Rogers, who was at NC State. Really good playmaker. Has a couple of capabilities similar to Casey Concepcion. I think that he could be a big-time asset to pair alongside with what you get with Lazier Brooks, and then you retain Rico Scott. So that's pretty big. The running back position is going to be really interesting. I think that losing Hollywood was a bigger deal because of right now, I look at Alabama and I say that they don't have a guy that's going to fit in with the style of offense that you need to run underneath a guy like Kalen DeBoer and Brian Grubb. You just don't. You're working with a square peg and a round hole. So Alabama's going to have to, I think, still go out in the portal and find themselves somebody who can elevate the overall identity of what is that running back room. Because if you got really, I do believe that Keelan Russell is going to end up being a big-time name that ends up being exactly what is necessary to run an offense that Kalen DeBoer wants to see. And we're going to see more of that when we get to next season, where Alabama looks very similar to what we saw with Washington. And you're going to see Lazier Brooks have a big-time deal. And I think that they are going to get Noah Rogers at the end of the day. So he's going to have a big-time role. And he's going to be the new Jeremy Bernard. And Ryan Williams is going to be really good. And I think the offensive line is going to be slightly upgraded because of you're bringing in some new players. But if you're a one-dimensional offense and you basically say that we are only going to win through the air, automatically you're going to go 8-4. And 8-4 gets you fired in Alabama. So there are things that they got to still fix. I'm not worried about missing out on Cam Coleman. I'm not worried about losing out on a guy such as the Hollywood Smothers if you can go out and add in somebody else. But you're at a point where it is a make or break year. Because there will be a lot of people that say, listen, we do things different at Alabama. And unfortunately, I don't think that you're going to become Nebraska. I saw in the comment section, is Alabama the next Nebraska? No, I don't think so. I just don't think that.
I saw somebody say USC as well. Is that more of a valid?
That feels more probable. 9-3, 10-2, maybe going to every other 3 or 4 years. You're in the SEC title game. You're in the
I think the investment level will always be great enough to not get quite to that level. I don't know. Maybe on-field results-wise. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I'll just leave it.
No, I mean, like for the standpoint of they won't always be 11-1, 10-2. There'll be some years where they go 9-3. That's where Alabama fans are going to have to actually.
Well, especially too, Cole. Like we're going to talk about it on Wednesday, but to tease that show, but dude, with a 9-game conference schedule, you're gonna go 9-3, right? I hate to tell you, and that's a lot of these schools out there. Like it's gonna happen.
But here's the beauty: you could go 9-3 and end up going to the college football playoff if they expand to 16 or 24 teams.
I mean, you better. You better.
If you don't, I mean, here's the thing: like if Greg Sankey is not signing off on for any second a 2014 college football playoff if 9-3 teams from the SEC are getting penalized, he won't do it. He'll leave it at 12 and say, I'll take my chances with getting 5 in again.
Will 16 be the, what is it, 5, 4, 2? What was it? Like there's 5 guaranteed in or whatever?
I think it's 4, 4, 2, 2, and then at large.
Okay. Well, anyways, we'll see how Bama does. We'll see how they fare. I mean, obviously a lot of the way this Alabama program is trending, 2026 will be massive for that. And whether we view Caden Durham as the guy or not this time next year goes hand in hand. Those two things go hand in hand, really, truly, essentially. So, Cole, that being said, really good show today. Had a lot of fun. Let's take some questions. A little bit of post show here. P. Miller, they expand to 9-3 Bama. We'll get into much.
They're never going to be left out. Just not.
Bama's not going to get left out at 9-3. That's crazy. Especially we expand further. It's not going to happen. Yes, it's Bama is the next USC. That comes from David Gibson, 8484.
Which I could see where every few years, they're going to be competitive and they'll be in a prominent bowl game or they'll be in the college football playoff. But there will be years where they go 7-5. I mean, I could see that, especially because if they're not willing to spend the money in ways that other places are.
Pablo Picasso says, Cole, say, quote, Arch is winning the Heisman, end quote. It needs to be clipped and used for the next 7 months.
No. Hell no. Hell no, am I not going to say that. Because the second I do, I turn to Paul Feinbaum. The second I do, I turn to that.
Yeah, let him do that. Tiger Burt says, Texas will always have talent. There are 2 issues. 1, Sark is an OC that is too soft as a head coach / leader. 2, the Texas schedule in 24 was ridiculously favorable, and 25 was average SEC in strength, but 26 is a much, much harder gauntlet. The first true SEC-style gauntlet ever faced by the Horns. The schedule hold Texas back in 26?
No. I'm not going to. Okay. Sandman saw this earlier, so I'll just answer the
There's
question.
Somewhere, I think the truth's in the middle somewhere.
So Sandman asked this earlier. Don't put us at number 1. I will not put Texas at number 1 in my way too early rankings. I won't. Because you got to prove it to me.
Who will be number 1, you think?
The winner of the national championship for me.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like, I'm just going to go take the easy way out. That's just the way it's going to go.
Even Indiana, you lose Mendoza, you're still going to put them at 1?
They got into Josh Hoover and Nick Marsh. They're going to be great offensively next year.
Okay. All right.
But for me, like the big thing is they're so well put together offensively when it comes to weaponry. I just need adequate offensive line play. Like I trust the defense. I do. I really do. I think they're going to be fine. You still have Colin Simmons. I love the linebacker they just brought in from Pitt. You have great depth, I think, in the secondary. You bring back Jelani McDonald. I think Grayson Littleton is going to have a massive step ahead. They're going to be a playoff team next year. Like, I don't worry about them at all. Will they be in the SEC championship? That's the big question. Because they may end up going 10-2 and being left out of Atlanta. But is that okay in the eyes of Texas fans?
Indeed. Looking for other questions. Let's see. Y'all let us know, guys. I do want to, Cole, we're in a little bit of post-show, obviously. Really quickly in closing, I kind of debated whether this was a topic that we should dive into. Is this the right, or at least like if this show specifically is the right platform for it. You are in traditional media.
Oh, boy.
Thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen? That has gone stupidly viral, like 10 million views on the clip. Again, you are in traditional media. And if, in case anybody out there missed it, Liam Cohen's in his post-game presser. Jacksonville loses to Buffalo. NFL playoffs. The reporter essentially is like, you keep your head up. You know, y'all are headed in a great direction. Like, this is in the midst of the press conference. Your take on that?
Okay. And I say this as respectfully as possible, because if I do know that we're in a day and age to where old school media is the one being the old men yelling at clouds, and I try not to be always that, but there is a caveat into it. I have no problem if that was the way you want to start off your question. The problem is that you didn't ask a question afterwards. You just gave a compliment and then you moved on. That can be done to the side. That can just be, as you're walking on out, pull them aside to say, hey, congratulations on a good year. If you would have followed it up with a question, it makes sense. But it felt like in that moment, time and place is a really big deal. That's my stance on it. I don't have a problem with media ever going up to a coach or a player and say, hey, great season. There's many players in the Houston Texans locker room that I have gone up to afterwards and said, hey, hope to see you next year. It's just, it's timing and place is the only thing that I have an issue with. Or the way it was phrased. If you would have asked a question afterwards, I don't think there would be any pushback whatsoever. I just don't. Because if there was a reporter out in Cleveland that asked a question, and before he asked the question, he started with, I just hope to let you know, I really don't want this to be the last time that we talk to you. I hope that we see you back next year. But he followed up with another question. That's the difference that I have with it. Just time and place for everything. And that's where I stand on it. I don't have a problem. I understand that this is the new day and age. It is what it is. I move on. It doesn't affect my life. I'm not going to complain about it. Just from my overall understanding, you could do that off to the side. That's all I will say on the situation. Or at least have a follow-up question that goes with it afterwards.
The reaction to it, I thought, because I will say this, not that I would ever be in a post-game press conference, but if I was, heck, I don't know that I would say that, but the reaction to it has been wild, to say the very least. It has been wild.
There was a reason I didn't tweet about it.
Yeah.
There was, because
it's been interesting to see. You know, I had a take on it, but I mean, I had a take you would expect to come from me. I'm not in traditional media. I didn't go to journalism school. It's been a mixed bag from the traditional media folks. And then I got a real kick today out of Pat McAfee. Essentially, he took it to a level of, hey, there's a lot of people that cover sports that don't really love sports.
Right.
They are, you know, political people that saw sports as an easy way in. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but essentially, I mean, he dropped the hammer and I'm like, dog, you work for ESPN. And a lot of your coworkers are probably pissed off that you tweeted that. Like, I don't have anybody like to really, you know, I was like, interesting. I don't disagree with you totally, but interesting. So, whatever.
Here's the problem that comes when it comes to Pat. Pat gets a one-on-one with all these players, and he doesn't have to worry about ever sharing the spotlight with somebody. When you're in a media space like that, right, and you're fighting for interviews and you're fighting for questions to get on in, and you're only allotted 5 minutes, that's a question that could have been used elsewhere, and you could have just done it to the side. Pat doesn't have to go ahead and fight in a scrum for interviews. He's at Radio Row, and he has an entire stage built, and he's earned that, and I'm never going to take that away from him. But it's hard for someone like that to give an opinion on what goes on in these locker rooms when you're not the one in there. They bring them to you onto your stage. They bring them to you onto your platform. So you get to have something that all of us aspire to get to at one point. Again, if SEC Unfiltered ever gets to a level where we have big time set to where players are coming on in and they're sitting down and doing interviews with us, it's a complete night and day different feel. It just is. Because I'm not going to go about it in a traditional media way. Why would I? I'm not traditional media at that standpoint. I mean, would I be a little bit more close and personal to them? But when it's in that stage, it's just about time and place. That's all it is. It's about the value of seconds. But again, it's a new day and age of media. I personally am not going to lose sleep over a person giving a compliment to a team that went from 4-13 to 13-4. I just won't. It doesn't bother me enough. It is what it is. You move on with life. That's all I will say.
Indeed. I just want to get your thoughts on it, Cole, because you got a unique vantage point that, heck, I don't even have.
Yeah.
Really quickly before we get out of here, we'll take two more. First off, we've got a super chat from our guy, P. Miller. Thank you, P. Miller. $5 super chat. He says prediction on the Texas record next year, assuming they square up the offensive line, make it serviceable. Two things on this, P. Miller. Number one, we will fire. Well, I tell you this, Cole, if you want to fire off a quick record prediction, P. Miller, I'm not trying to dodge your question, but great segue, because on Wednesday, we are going to drop, Cole and I both, our respective way too early record predictions for the 2026 season. Because admittedly, I don't have the Texas schedule in front of me, and I'm going to be throwing out some random record to you. But I will tell you this. If they have a serviceable offensive line with what is back, an Arch Manning, another year Arch Manning, the weapons they've added, this should be a team that should be in the playoff. It's just bottom line.
I will say right now, 10-2. 10-2 and in the playoff. The playoff for sure.
And I think with that schedule, I mean, in a 9-game conference slate, 10-2 is a great year for everybody.
Yeah.
For everybody. It's just
I don't know where the 2 losses come from yet. I'm going to actually go right down. Like, as soon as we get off tonight, I'm going to go through every single pick, because that's how I do my schedules, is I literally pick every single one. But I say 10-2. I don't know if you'll beat LSU on the road. I don't know if you'll beat Ohio State. I don't know if you'll beat Texas A&M. But you'll either lose 2 of those games and you'll win the rest, or you'll win 2 of those games and then be able to get it. Like, the Florida game's going to be another one that I'm really interested in, seeing how you play against them. Ole Miss is going to be a really interesting one. So, like, there's games on the schedule to where, like, it could be a toss-up. Because I'm also just going to let you know right now, and I see right here, so I just want to get to it real fast. Love the show. And Ace Gator saying, personally, Florida's playoff game next year. Ace Gator, I hate to be the very bad news for you. I'm going to be giving you so much hopium going into the offseason that you have no idea what you're going to do with it. Yeah, like, it is going to be nonstop hopium when it comes to Florida. Like, this is the toxic relationship that I live in and I've accepted. It's just a part of my life. It just is. I am the dumb bimbo that falls and says that the guy is going to change despite seeing all the red flags. And it's Florida, because every offseason they do it. Every offseason they just do it for me.
One thing I can assure you I'm not doing, Cole, is picking Texas to lose to Texas A&M. I've learned my lesson by now. I'm done. I can't do it. I can't do it again. 2 years in a row. Been wrong. Last one. Tiger Burt can Marcel Reed truly develop for the Aggies. His field vision reminds me of Jordan Jefferson from the LSU 11 season when it really mattered. 2012 Natty against Bama. A strong defense completely held him back. So Tiger Burt, Cole, essentially asks, can Marcel Reed be elite when it matters most?
This is tough.
Hard to answer that one until we see it.
Well, because here's the thing. So Holman Wiggins is now the offensive coordinator. They upgraded internally, and they said, instead of going outside, we're just going to go promote. What's going to be different this time around compared to Colin Klein's system? Are they good, or is it going to be the same? Because if it's the same and all you're doing is just elevating the play calls and feeling more comfortable in the offensive personnel, by all means, he's going to take that next jump forward. Because I love the addition of Isaiah Horton. I do think that Terry Bussey's going to break on out next year. I'm really, really excited to see Mario Craver in year 2. I am. I still think the offensive line is going to be good. But how much are we going to see him improve, or what's going to change about the offense? A&M is one of the most tricky teams, I think, to prepare for 2026. I could easily see them going 10-2. I could see them going 7-5 and then benching Marcel Reed halfway through the year. I really could see it.
Oh, there's so much time to figure that out, Cole. There's so much time to figure
it out. There's so much time.
So much time to pull our hair out and try to figure out what these teams are going to be. Guys, again, we appreciate you all tuning in. The Overtime Drive in the books on this Monday, January the 12th. It is always a pleasure hanging out with you all. We appreciate your love, your support, your engagement. We love the banter and doing it all with you. Cole Thompson, you're the best. Again, guys, make sure, as always, you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out where we get your podcasts all across your favorite social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. He's at Mr. Cole Thompson. I'm at CPhilly19. Follow us on the respective socials, and make sure you tune into the Overtime Drive Wednesday, 2 o'clock Central. We'll be back, and it's a big show on Wednesday, like I mentioned. way too early record predictions for the 2026 season, because it's never too early, although it is way too early. That'll start a lot of way too early content. I know our guy Cole Thompson's got a way too early top 25 he'll be cooking up. We got some other stuff as well. Again, beauty's in the banter. We're always here doing it. So, again, appreciate you all. Cole, you're the best. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Monday. Stay tuned to all the content bleeding out of the eyeballs. We'll talk to you guys on the other side. Cheers.